our stubborn selves will cause it all. I hear the engine start to stop. Oh, but at least we'll all feel right. At least we'll go out standing tall.
Hey everybody, I'm TJ Freeze and welcome to Frostflower. Today we're going to bring you a little federal cannabis legalization update. Let's get into it. First thing we're going to talk about today is the rescheduling/descheduling of cannabis. So what does that mean? In the early 70s, when the U.S. government passed Federal Controlled Substances Act, they split all the drugs that they knew of into 6 different categories called schedules. So these range from Schedule 1, which includes drugs that have a high likelihood of addiction and have no legal medical use in that highest category. And the lowest category are things like tobacco and caffeine and alcohol, things that are legal but can be regulated in some way or another. So where do you suppose they put cannabis in this mix? Schedule 1, along with LSD and crystal meth and heroin. So Schedule 2, to give you a little context, includes drugs like cocaine and fentanyl. So when they made this drug schedule, they made cannabis even more illegal than those drugs that can cause so many problems in our society. So why did they do this? Cannabis has always just kind of had a reputation of being a very subculture related substance, and the DEA wanted to be able to enforce the strictest of drug laws, which they've been doing for years until the recent trend against prohibition that has been happening on the state level. So Schedule 1 is what the drug is now, but the Department of Health and Human Services under Joe Biden has actually done a study and recommended that the DEA change it to Schedule 3. So skipping that whole Schedule 2 altogether and going down to Schedule 3. So what would this mean if we rescheduled cannabis to Schedule 3 instead of Schedule 1? So the main thing is there's 2 main benefits of this, I guess. One will be for medical research. As a Schedule 1 drug, they consider those drugs not even safe to use under doctor supervision. So the amount of research into those drugs is extremely limited. As Schedule 3, doctors and scientists would be able to research and do studies about this drug, and we can learn so much more about the different cannabinoids, the different effects of the substances in cannabis and what it can do for us on a medical level. So that'd be really great. The other big benefit would be for cannabis businesses. So any business that operates with any Schedule 1 or Schedule 2 substance is not allowed to claim their expenses on their taxes. So they end up paying way more in taxes than any other legal business would. Rescheduling to Schedule 3 would mean that cannabis businesses can now claim their expenses on their taxes like any other business, which would save cannabis businesses across the country millions of dollars every year. So those are the 2 big reasons why it would be great to reschedule to Schedule 3. A lot of people think that cannabis should just be completely removed from the schedule, or at least moved down to Schedule 6, like other recreationally available substances like caffeine and alcohol. But rescheduling to Schedule 3 would be a significant step in the right direction. So the other thing that we want to talk about coming from Washington is the Safe Banking Act. So there's been a very contentious bit of legislation. It was written to kind of address the gray area between state legalization and federal prohibition that exists. What happens is banks end up getting stuck in the middle. So according to their state law, they could totally open up accounts and deal with cannabis businesses, but under federal law, they're not allowed to. So that makes businesses very leery about dealing with cannabis companies because they could lose things like their federal insurance, the FDIC insurance that protects all their deposits at their banks. So it makes it just really hard for cannabis businesses to operate. Safe banking would change that. So it would protect banks from federal penalties using something called safe harbor. So this would protect banks and credit unions who deal with cannabis businesses from being caught up in any legal repercussions from those relationships. It would be it would essentially allow cannabis businesses to operate like any other legal form of business. So one of the other things, because of this, employers in the cannabis industry have to pay their staff in cash. So that, it makes it so their staff doesn't have the same tax claims. And it means that a lot of times people that work in cannabis industries can't buy houses, get cars, get loans for anything because they can't show the income from their cannabis jobs on their taxes. So they end up just kind of getting caught in the margins. So safe banking would allow employers in the cannabis industry to pay their employees in payroll checks and just like any other business. So that would probably also help the federal government in general, because a lot of those unclaimed wages would start being claimed and taxes paid on them. So this would be a benefit in that way for everybody. So the other reasons that we need safe banking, one of the big ones is security. So when you're a cannabis dispensary, especially, you're dealing with a lot of cash. So in addition to all that product that would be a target for thieves and robbers, all that cash, you just can't find that really anywhere else in any other business. So it requires that dispensaries spend a lot of money to hire security, and even then still are more likely target for robbery than other businesses that are traditional targets like gas stations and liquor stores. So allowing safe banking would allow the company to deal in electronic transactions, which is also great for the consumer, because who doesn't use their card for 90% of the things they buy these days? So that would be great. It would also help for tax compliance. So as it stands, cannabis businesses, we're essentially just kind of trusting that they're giving us the correct numbers because there aren't those electronic paper trails, so to speak. So this would just ensure that cannabis companies are paying their fair share of taxes and not, hiding anything. It would also make it better for the cannabis companies themselves because they can be more, like the executives of cannabis companies or the higher ups have a much better way to track their expenses and their income and make sure that they're not, their employees aren't, stealing from them, and they're not losing a bunch of product or a bunch of money that they don't know about. The other thing would be freedom to invest. So as of now, mutual funds, things like that, they're not investing in cannabis stocks because of the volatility and because of those gray areas. So those institutional investments, if the Safe Banking Act passed, it would allow a lot more peace of mind for those groups to invest in cannabis businesses and would help them in that way as well. So one last little bit that I want to add on to this before I say goodbye for the day is that MasterCard has banned all cannabis transactions from their card network. It's currently illegal to use the electronic credit card network to do cannabis transactions anyway. But what a lot of retailers, dispensaries will do is use cashless ATM machines. And so this is an attempt by the credit card companies to kind of combat that and make sure that their cards aren't being used in the cannabis industry. Passing things like safe banking would, and allowing those electronic networks to be used by dispensaries and other cannabis businesses would really would make those credit card companies back off instantly. The only reason that they are against the use of their cards in the industry is because of those federal legal gray areas. So what can you do to help get the descheduling and or the Safe Banking Act passed? So contact your congressperson, send them an email, give them a phone call, just let them know that you care about it. If enough people do this, then eventually they may, do something about it, support it, or be more vocal about their support of it. So our senators here in Minnesota are Amy Klobuchar and Tina Smith. So Google them, find their email addresses, contact them, tell them you want these things to happen. Your House of Representatives representatives. So this will be based on your district. So I'll put this up on the screen now so you'll know, depending upon which district you're in, who your representative is. And do the same thing. Email them, call them. If they're campaigning next year, show up. And if they're taking questions, ask them what their take on safe banking is. Really, like a lot of the government isn't in our hands anymore, but we can have little impacts. And one of those is to let our Congress people know the issues that we care about. So do that. Anyway, that's all I got for you today. I'll be coming up with more federal legalization news updates whenever the DEA decides to officially reschedule or not. And if and when the Safe Banking Act does move forward, we'll be here to let you know. So go down to the comments, let us know what else you'd like to see in these videos, and hopefully we'll see more of you, and you'll definitely be seeing more of me. So thanks for joining us on Frostflower. I'm TJ Freeze, and have a glorious day.